and imprecise science in the two-round system. On the right, the conservative Republicans were also reeling, projected to end up with possibly no more than 110 seats, and possibly as few as 70, having controlled 215 in the outgoing parliament.
Russia and the U.S. are ready to help resolve a diplomatic rift in the Middle East over Qatar's alleged support for militants and ties to Iran, the Russian Foreign Ministry said Sunday. Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, discussed Qatar with U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson in a phone call Saturday. Both stressed the need to resolve the disagreements through negotiation and expressed their readiness to contribute to such efforts, the ministry said in a statement. A coalition of Persian Gulf nations led by Saudi Arabia severed diplomatic relations and imposed a blockade on land, sea, and air travel with Qatar last week, accusing the country of supporting Sunni extremist groups and Iranian-backed Shiite militants to destabilize the region. From Tehran, Iran says it has killed the alleged mastermind of twin attacks last week claimed by the Islamic State. The official news agency quoted Intelligence Minister Alavi as saying the suspect left Iran for a neighboring country following the attacks, but was sent to hell by Iranian intelligence agents and fellow intelligence services. 5 attackers stormed Iran's parliament and a shrine to a revolutionary leader, Khomeini, on Wednesday, setting off clashes with security forces and killing at least 17 people. And from Mogadishu, Somalia, the U.S. military in Africa said it carried out an airstrike in southern Somalia that killed 8 Islamic extremists at a rebel command and logistics camp 185 miles southwest of Mogadishu, the capital. A statement said the attack happened Sunday morning. There was no immediate comment on the airstrike from Somalia's homegrown extremist group Al-Shabaab, which is allied with Al-Qaeda.
And from London, embattled British Prime Minister Theresa May appointed ministers to her shaky government Sunday as some Conservative colleagues rallied to support her, and others said her days were numbered after last week's disastrous election. May is seeking a deal with a Northern Irish party to prop up the Conservative minority administration, that is, and lawmakers said the rebuff from voters meant the government will have to abandon planned policies and rethink its strategy for European Union exit talks. May's weakened position in the party ruled out big changes. All the most senior ministers, including Treasury Chief Philip Hammond, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, Defense Secretary Michael Fallon, and Home Security Secretary Amber Rudd, kept their jobs, and there were few changes in the cabinet lineup.
From Vatican City, Pope Francis has laid down an ultimatum to defiant Nigerian priests. You'll lose your jobs if you don't obey me and your bishop. Francis met Thursday at the Vatican with a delegation from the Ahira Diocese, where priests have been refusing to accept the 2012 appointment by the then Pontiff Benedict XVI of the local bishop. The Vatican newspaper, reporting on the Pope's unusually harsh order, said Sunday that Francis was acting for the good of the people of God by threatening to suspend the priests if they didn't pledge in a letter by July 9th total obedience to Francis and accept the Bishop Peter Opaleki's appointment. Francis told the visiting delegation that he was very sad about the priests' refusal to obey and said tribal loyalties couldn't explain the refusal. Africa has been one of the continents where the Catholic Church is growing. The faithful and clergy there often imbue their practices with local culture in dynamic contrast to more traditional routines in Europe or North America. Francis's move to end disobedience aims to ensure that the growing church there will be loyal to the Pope. His remarks to the delegation indicated how dangerous he viewed any rebellion against papal authority.
From Orlando, church bells will toll throughout the Orlando area today as residents reflect on the 49 patrons killed during a massacre at the gay nightclub Pulse in the worst mass shooting in recent U.S. history. Starting in the early hours today and continuing almost 24 hours later, survivors, victims' families, city officials, and Central Florida residents remembered the victims with 4 services. The first service was to be closed to the public and was being held at the nightclub for survivors, local officials, and club employees. It was to overlap with the exact time that gunman Omar Mateen began firing shots, a little after 2 a.m. on June the 12th, 2016.
In national news from Los Angeles, a sole winning Powerball ticket worth $447.8 million and matching all 6 numbers was sold in Southern California, and whoever owns it will claim the 10th largest lottery prize in U.S. history, lottery officials said Sunday. The winning ticket was sold at Marietta Liquor and Deli in the small city of Menifee. The California Lottery said in a statement. Lottery officials said the earliest the ticket could be redeemed is 8 a.m. today, and the winner has 1 year to claim the prize. The store, just off a highway, caters to retirees who live in the part of Menifee known as Sun City, which was developed as a retirement community in the 1960s. It also is a common stop for motorists passing through the area about 80 miles from Los Angeles. Liquor store owner Matthew Alberry said he does not know which of his customers won the jackpot or what his family will do with the $1 million bonus set aside for the retailer that sells the winning ticket.
Out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico's governor announced that the U.S. territory has overwhelmingly chosen statehood in a non-binding referendum Sunday held amid a deep economic crisis that has sparked an exodus of islanders to the U.S. mainland. Nearly 500,000 votes were cast for statehood, more than 7,600 for free association, independence, and nearly 6,700 for the current territorial status, according to preliminary results. The participation rate was just 23%, with roughly 2.26 million registered voters, leading opponents to question the validity of a vote that several parties had boycotted. From today going forward, the federal government will no longer be able to ignore the voice of the majority of the American citizens in Puerto Rico, Governor Ricardo Rossello said, announcing the victory. U.S. Congress, however, has final say in any changes to the island's political status. It was the lowest level of participation in any election in Puerto Rico since 1967, according to Carlos Vargas Ramos, an associate with the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College in New York. He said that even among voters who supported statehood, turnout was lower this year compared with the last referendum in 2012. Supporters of statehood did not seem enthusiastic about this, as they were 5 years ago, he said. Puerto Rico's main opposition party rejected the pro-statehood result. The scant participation sends a clear message, said Anibal Jose Torres, a party member. The people rejected it by boycotting an inconsequential event. The referendum coincides with the 100th anniversary of the United States granting U.S. citizenship to Puerto Ricans, though they are barred from voting in presidential elections and have only one congressional representative with limited voting powers. Those who oppose statehood worry the island will lose its cultural identity and warn that Puerto Rico will struggle even more financially because it will be forced to pay millions of dollars in federal taxes.
From Thornton, Colorado, a 15-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of first-degree murder in the death of a 10-year-old Colorado girl. Kaya Campbell was reported missing in the city of Thornton on Wednesday, and her body was found the next day about 1.5 miles from her father's house. Investigators said her body had signs of severe trauma. Kaya was last seen with the 15-year-old son of her father's girlfriend. From Crooksville, Ohio, a small Ohio village has demolished a popular pizzeria after a sinkhole opened up beneath it. Spankle's Village Pizza in Crooksville had to close and be demolished after a 20-foot deep sinkhole appeared Friday, causing the first floor to partially collapse. Sprankle's has been a staple for 47 years in Crooksville, 60 miles southeast of Columbus. While crews prepared to demolish the building, employees and community members salvaged as much food and equipment as they could. Owner Roger Sprankle said the sinkhole might have been caused by having a creek on one side of the building and a rail line on the other. The village will pay for the demolition because the business had no insurance.
Healing on horseback. When he's riding horses, Cody Beach does not remember the bullets flying past him or the explosions that caused him to lose 80% of his hearing. It's the only time he can truly relax. Beach is one of about 20 veterans who commute from Lincoln to Hickman to participate in horse-assisted therapy at Guide to the Soul Equitherapy. Owners Jenna Christensen Bauman and Tony Bauman provide free sessions to veterans and anyone in need. Research has shown that being around animals can help people to relax and feel more comfortable. For people with PTSD, being around horses is very therapeutic, Jenna said. It can get them out of their head and get them doing something that they can enjoy. Beach has seen firsthand how helpful the alternative therapy has been in reducing his symptoms. He served in the Army for 3 years, including 1 year deployed in the front lines as an infantryman in Afghanistan. As time passed, his symptoms increased. It started with nightmares. He'd scream out in his sleep, saying things in Pashto, the language spoken in Afghanistan. He was jumpy and paranoid in crowds. Loud noises triggered fear. He felt like he was on the edge. After returning from deployment, Beach was in the Army for another year. He did not acknowledge the symptoms, he said, until he left the military entirely in 2013. I didn't recognize it because there were other guys that thought like I did, so I wasn't too concerned about it, he said. Being out felt like I was alone. I didn't have anyone to understand what I was going through. He has several military friends and acquaintances who also struggle with PTSD. The severity of the problem hit home for him when a friend committed suicide after deployment a few years ago. While you're at war, you expect to see death, he said, but finding out a buddy that came home ends up taking his own life, you realize it's a big issue and you're really not ready for it. He sought help at Veterans Affairs, but he said he didn't feel like it was what he needed at the time. Last year, a former boss connected him with the Guide to the Soul, and Beach says he feels like he has found his family. He immediately bonded with Jana and Tony Bauman and felt that being around the horses helped relieve some of the anxiety and fear caused by PTSD. The Baumans have created an oasis for veterans to get away from everyday life and find community. This year, they put up a playground and above-ground pool to include families. They sometimes host campfires or events to foster that community atmosphere.
Good news, sharing stories from around the world. From Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, 6-year-old Ismail Zulfic was born without arms and with a deformed foot into a society that often neglects and marginalizes children with disabilities. But his parents and an inspirational sports instructor have helped him overcome his physical limitations and a fear of water to win a gold medal at a regional competition for disabled swimmers. He's also won the hearts of many people in the Balkans. Sports instructor Emil Capo launched the free swimming classes for children with disabilities at a Sarajevo pool without any state support. It is estimated that 6.5% of Bosnian children ages 2 to 9 have some kind of disability, but they normally lack basic facilities such as ramps, support bars, or adapted furniture. When Ismail starts school later this year, he is likely to encounter inaccessible classrooms and teachers who are not trained to work with children like him. But the 6-year-old already knows that he can win despite odds stacked against him and says that it feels really nice. From New York, a nursing student who celebrated a makeshift graduation on a New York City subway train after a train breakdown made him miss the actual ceremony, is getting a personalized graduation. Hunter College President Jennifer Raab and Nursing School Dean Gail McCain held a ceremony Thursday to give Jarek Alcantara his diploma. Alcantara was on his way to commencement on May 30th when his E-train stalled. Passengers waited an hour and a half for a rescue train. Once the rescue train arrived, there were more delays. Friends, family members, and strangers threw Alcantara an impromptu ceremony while they waited. Video posted to Facebook shows a friend handing Alcantara a mock diploma. And finally, from Sussex, Wisconsin, a water tower emblazoned with the word sex greeted drivers as they passed through a town in southeast Wisconsin, thanks to an ill-timed painting break. The gaff turned up in Sussex, a village about 20 miles northwest of Milwaukee. One day this spring, workers painting the town's name on the water tower stopped midway through to allow the paint to dry. Village officials said the word was fully finished the next morning. Jessica Bruce said she almost drove off the road when her 8-year-old son pointed out the word as they drove past the water tower on their way to his first baseball game.
And turning now to local news, a credit union that will offer an option to people who sometimes get caught in the payday loan trap and a banking alternative to others will open this summer in downtown Lincoln. Community Hope Federal Credit Union has been issued its certificate of charter and will begin serving the downtown area in August from offices in the 1600 block of N Street, said Mark Collar, who helped start the low-income credit union and will be its CEO. The credit union will serve about 40,000 people who live, work, and worship in the 12 census tracts that make up the downtown area. It will also serve people who seek relief from poverty. So if someone who lives in the Bethany area is using services at the Center for People in Need, they would be eligible to be a member, Collar said. That increases our footprint, he said. Our mission is to give an alternative to payday lending as well as financial literacy training. So when the credit union lends out money, we will also educate you so you don't fall into that trap again, he said. Most traditional lending by banks and credit union is based on collateral and capital, and we are going to be focusing on character, Collar said. The Community Hope rules will be flexible than traditional banks. For example, the credit union may make a $500 loan and stretch the payment out over 12 months, he said. A bank has shareholders and has to meet a dividend payment. A credit union has members, and we help each other, he said.
On the hottest day of the year in one of the hottest real estate markets in years, realtor Brian Carlin needed a way to keep cool Sunday as he hosted what was probably one of Omaha's hottest open houses of the afternoon. So Carlin stopped by Walmart on his way to his open house in the Field Club neighborhood. His purchase? A kiddie pool. Across the Midlands, people looked for ways to keep cool despite temperatures in the upper 90s and a heat index of about 100 degrees. Helping but also worsening the heat was the furnace-like wind that accompanied the day. The wind, blowing steadily at 20 miles to 30 miles per hour and gusting to 40 miles per hour, fanned away some of the heat, but it also wore people down. Officially, Omaha peaked at 96 degrees and Lincoln at 98. For Carlin, his keep cool tool was a lawn chair in the pool. As a steady stream of people headed into the small home near 33rd and Walnut Streets, Carlin passed out literature and traded jokes about the weather. Despite the heat, the crowd didn't let up. Carlin wasn't surprised. After all, the asking price for the brick two-door in the well-established neighborhood was a hot $100,000 as is. It's hot. I figured, why not stay cool, Carlin said. And yes, this is helping me to keep cool.
The following article is by Don Walton. Frank Lemire won a standing ovation from Boys State students last week after he told them the tale of White Clay. Standing ovations from Boy Staters are not unusual, but this one was sudden and complete as high school juniors jumped to their feet the moment Lemire completed his story, with an accompanying appeal to these young men to remain true to the basic values they already know and understand today. You will be tested, he told them. It will be easy to be compromised and corrupted along the journey ahead. You be good to him, you be good to her, he reminded them. That's what they already have been taught. And it's as simple as that, Lemire said. You know the difference between right and wrong now, Lemire told them. But as you grow older, he said, they will compromise you. You will be tested. You're going to be marginalized when you speak up, when you stand up for something. Stay true to what you already know now, he urged them. Lemire told the Boy Staters that the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission's decision to deny renewal licenses for the 4 beer stores to continue to operate at White Clay after a long and desperate battle was sudden, stunning, and historic. How did this happen? He asked. I don't know. It was an historic human and civil rights win, a win for all of us. They will talk about White Clay for generations, Lemire said.
From Lincoln, the life of Marion Langen, who directed Audubon, Nebraska since 2011, will be celebrated outdoors on Saturday at a place she loved, the Spring Creek Prairie southwest of Lincoln. Langen was the first director of the 850-acre prairie when it was purchased in 1998. She led the fundraising for and development of an educational center, which opened on the prairie in 2006. The 54-year-old, who was born in Omaha and grew up in Cedar Rapids, Nebraska, died June 3rd after a year-long battle with cancer. Friends and co-workers said Langen will be remembered as a fierce advocate for conservation, especially tallgrass prairies, and as someone who built diverse coalitions to support projects and launched unique programs to educate kids about the outdoors. One of the programs she helped start, a prairie immersion at Spring Creek, provides 1,300 fourth graders a year from Lincoln a chance to capture bugs, study native flowers, and explore the tallgrass prairie. It was amazing how many kids she touched and had a lifelong impression on, said Dave Sands, a former state executive director of Audubon, Nebraska, who is now executive director of the Nebraska Land Trust. If kids don't grow up to love and understand nature, they're not going to want to protect it, he said. The Prairie Immersion Program was different from some outdoor education programs in that students guided their own exploration rather than being told what's important, said a longtime friend, Bill Tadigan, director of Rose Sanctuary and interim director of Audubon, Nebraska. They get out, they get wet, they get dirty. They get out in the tall grass, Tadigan said. We just guide them. In 2012, Langen was invited to the White House for a summit on environmental education. When the center at Spring Creek Prairie was built, she insisted on green construction techniques, including the use of hay bales cut from the prairie, said Arnold Mendenhall of Hickman, a former co-worker. In addition to the Spring Creek Prairie, Langen helped develop Audubon's Rose Sanctuary near Gibbon into an internationally recognized destination for bird watchers. The center hosted 25,000 visitors this spring for the Sandhill Crane Migration. Langen is survived by a daughter, Corrine Colm of Lincoln, mother, Renate Langen of Cedar Rapids, sisters Karen, Renee, and Jackie, brother Randy, and longtime dear friend David Murphy. She was preceded in death by her father, Gerald. The celebration of life will begin at 10 a.m. on June 17th at Spring Creek Prairie, 11700 Southwest 100th Street in Denton.
The University of Nebraska College of Law is adding a new legal clinic for third-year law students focusing on child advocacy. Students in the Children's Justice Clinic will serve as guardians for children in the child welfare system. The inaugural course will have 8 students and start this fall. We are thrilled to add the Children's Justice Clinic to our clinical offering, said Richard Moberly, Dean of Nebraska College of Law. The work that our students will do in the clinic will affect generations of Nebraskans and ensure that the state's youngest residents receive high-quality representation in the juvenile court system. According to a press release, the clinic will provide practical skills training to law students, as well as help address the state's need for qualified guardians, or GALs. A 2009 study by the National Association of Counsel for Children found numerous gaps in the representation of children in the state, including that GALs in Nebraska would be well served by additional training in child development, family dynamics and dysfunction, and by consulting with multidisciplinary experts to provide effective service for children they represent. The new clinic will work closely with experts at the Center on Children, Families, and the Law to provide wide-ranging cross-disciplinary training. In Lancaster County, we need more attorneys not only willing to serve as a GAL, but able to implement best practices to effectively advocate for children, said Lancaster County Juvenile Court Judge Roger Heidemann. Calling the role critical in juvenile court cases, advocating for very young children presents a unique challenge that requires a special skill set.
Nebraska Methodist College hopes more students will be bound for good things with the acquisition of a federal grant. The college announced that it received a $1.29 million federal grant for its Upward Bound program. The grant from the U.S. Department of Education will provide $257,500 for each of 5 years. Upward Bound is a tutoring and mentoring program to increase high school graduation rates among its participants. It also encourages enrollment in college and graduation from college. Nebraska Methodist College served 61 students under the program in the 2016-2017 school year. Since receiving its first Upward Bound grant in 2007, the college has served more than 550 students. Through the grant, the college serves eligible students at Burke High School, provides after-school tutoring at the St. Luke Methodist Church Teen Center, offers mentoring, has financial literacy training, and assists with college applications and enrollment. The college also has a 6-week summer program with instruction in core academic areas and a summer program for graduating seniors. Upward Bound enrolls first-generation college students, low-income students, and those who are at risk for academic failure.
A week-long series of events commemorating the 100th anniversary of World War I will start Monday in Seward and continue until June 18th. Humanities Nebraska is presenting many of the events which are part of the Nebraska Chautauqua and are being called World War I Legacies of a Forgotten War. All events are free and open to the public. A full schedule can be found online at humanitiesnebraska.org/program/Chautauqua. The events will be highlighted by a visit from renowned General John Pershing reenactor Dave Shuey and the family of World War I hero Sergeant Alvin York, who won the Medal of Honor for his assault on a machine gun nest that led to the killing of 25 German soldiers and the capture of 132 others. Shuey and York's family will be available for a meet and greet on Tuesday following a 7 p.m. free showing of the movie Sergeant York at the Rivoli Theater at 533 Main Street. They also will be available to meet Wednesday at the Seward City Band Shell at 5 p.m. prior to the start of a 6:30 p.m. presentation.
Fort Kearny Hike and Bike Trail marking a new link. The work by a lot of dedicated volunteers 40 years ago raised funds to acquire the abandoned Burlington and Missouri River Railroad line in Kearny, leading to creation of the Fort Kearny Hike and Bike Trail. The trail included a bridge that had been used for rail traffic for more than a century, from 1872 to 1976. But a wildfire fed by 60-mile-per-hour winds destroyed the wooden bridge in March 2009, leaving nothing but charred ashes. Residents again set about the task of raising funds. That effort took 6 years before rebuilding could begin. Scouts and leaders from Kearny Boy Scout Troop 158 Walk over where the trail crosses the Platte River's North Channel. Though the bridge has been open more than a year, a formal dedication ceremony is planned for Saturday.
The Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services is looking to help residents beat the heat this summer. The department offers two programs, one that provides electric fans through local organizations and another that helps in paying summer cooling bills. 32 organizations in 24 Nebraska counties work with the agency to distribute fans to needy citizens and distributed more than 5,600 fans statewide last year. The cooling bill payment program uses federal money left over from the winter heating program. To qualify, a person in the household must be 70 years or older, be receiving aid to dependent children with a child 5 or younger, or be more susceptible to heat because of a medical condition. Income limits also apply. For more information on these programs, go to dhhs.ne.gov.
A man who was on a boat with a child and fishing on Sunday is missing and presumed drowned at Cunningham Lake in northwest Omaha. Another boater rescued the 8-year-old boy who was stranded alone in a boat. The boy was later reunited with his mother and grandmother. The man, who was in his 30s, is believed to be the boy's father, Omaha Police Lieutenant Kyle Steffen said. It was not immediately clear what type of boat the two were in or how the man ended up in the water. Police and firefighters were called to the lake about 4:15 p.m. Sunday. Complicating the search were steady winds of 20 and 30 miles per hour, gusting to 40, and silty water due to runoff, Steffen said. The search, which included the use of sonar and dive teams, was halted when it became dark Sunday and was to resume this morning.
Citizens and the general public are invited to a free Aging Partners Resource Fair on Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Walter Apartments Community Room, which is located at 5501 Sea Mountain Road. The event will showcase programs, services, and other opportunities available through Aging Partners. No registration is required. Services and programs to be featured include senior health and fitness testing, long-term care, nutrition, personal and family services, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, transportation, and financial and employment resources. For more information on this event, you can call 402-441-7158. I'll repeat that. That's 402-441-7158.
A driver who fired at another vehicle on Interstate 80 in Lincoln has been arrested. The Nebraska State Patrol said Sunday that it had arrested a 48-year-old man on charges of assault with a deadly weapon, being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm, false reporting, and possession of forged documents. The shooting occurred just after 12:30 p.m. Sunday on the west edge of Lincoln. Troopers, assisted by Lincoln Police, responded to reports that the driver of a red Toyota RAV4 had fired at another vehicle while both were westbound on I-80. The other car was struck by at least one bullet, but the people inside were not hurt, according to the State Patrol. The occupants of the vehicles did not know each other, the patrol said, and the incident was not believed to be one of road rage.
In a survey, some wild game numbers rose. Officials say the April rural mail carrier survey number came in higher than last year for pheasant, cottontail rabbits, and wild turkeys in Nebraska. The Nebraska Game and Parks Commission says that if spring and early summer weather proves out moderate, production of young should be good this year. The increase in pheasant numbers was highest in the Southwest region. The increase in wild turkey numbers was highest in the Panhandle and Southeast regions. The Central and Southeast regions saw the greatest increase in cottontail numbers. The survey was conducted April 3rd through the 6th, when 424 rural mail carriers observed species while traveling nearly 177,000 miles of rural roads in 87 of Nebraska's 96 counties.
A 40-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene of a one-vehicle crash early Sunday in North Omaha. Lakeisha R. Gamble was driving a 2002 Chevrolet Tahoe East on John A. Creighton Boulevard about 2:30 a.m. when it left the road, police said. The Tahoe struck a large tree at 3001 John A. Creighton Boulevard. Gamble, the lone occupant, was pronounced dead by medical personnel from the Omaha Fire Department. She was not wearing a seatbelt. And a 22-year-old Omaha man was fatally injured about 3 p.m. Sunday when the SUV he was driving left 72nd Street north of Cedardale Road in Papillion, hit a light pole, and rolled, throwing him from the vehicle, the Sarpy County Sheriff's Office said. Gregory Polinsky was taken by ambulance to Creighton University Medical Center, Bergen-Mercy, where he was pronounced dead about 5 p.m., Lieutenant Dan Goldis said. An autopsy was scheduled for today. Polinsky had been driving a 2004 Chevrolet Trailblazer north on 72nd and apparently failed to negotiate a curve in the road, Goldis said. The sport utility vehicle veered off the right side of the road, hit the pole, and rolled. The cause of the crash remained under investigation Sunday evening.
And finally, Girl Scouts across Nebraska sold more than 2 million boxes of cookies this year, an increase of 11% over 2016. Customers generously stepped up, but it is the girls who made it happen, said Fran Marshall, Girl Scout Spirit of Nebraska CEO. The number sold 2,041,308 boxes, set a record. This year, 105 girls who sold more than 1,000 boxes apiece became members of the Elite 1000 Club. In Southeast Nebraska, Carly Urbashek of Beatrice joined the club with 1,155 boxes sold, and Hannah Van Cleve of Omaha, who was the state's top seller at 5,903 boxes, set a record for most cookies ever sold by one Nebraska girl in one cookie season.
The start of the school year will usher in yet another set of changes to the Omaha Public Schools' oft-criticized grading scale. The latest changes will require students to earn a higher score to receive an A. The new scale also could make it easier to get a failing grade. The 4-point grading scale was first introduced in 2010 and has been reworked several times since then. But teachers and administrators say they're confident that this time they got it right, tweaking the grading system once again to make sure grades convey what students know and the level of effort they put into schoolwork. The standards-based grading system is supposed to help teachers assign grades that more accurately reflect whether students have mastered the material and concepts taught in a class. More emphasis is placed on tests and large projects, and less emphasis is put on homework, behavior, or class participation. We think it better represents the excellence we demand of our young people, Assistant Superintendent Renee Kerberg said at a May school board meeting. The new grading scale will be adopted across the district at the start of the 2017-18 school year, following a field test last fall involving about 12,000 students across different schools, subjects, and grade levels. For example, all 4th grade math classes and all 7th grade social studies classes participated in the field test. A group of teachers and administrators who spent more than a year studying the scale unanimously recommended its full implementation.
Nebraska officials have chosen a series of new public health priorities that they hope to address between now and 2021. The list announced Tuesday includes obesity, depression, and suicide. State officials also hope to address healthcare disparities among people of different races, incomes, genders, and geographies. The priorities are part of the Nebraska State Health Improvement Plan. They were selected with help from hundreds of Nebraska stakeholders and data from a state health assessment. Officials say obesity continues to increase at an alarming pace. In 2014, 30% of the adult population was considered obese. The suicide rate increased between 2010 and 2014 to a rate of 13.3 deaths per 100,000 people. And that is the highest rate for any year in the past decade.
And since we have a lot of obituaries this morning, we're going to start a little bit early on them. These are from the Omaha World Herald. Binion, Johnny Binion, age 77. Services Tuesday, June 13th at 3 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of Heafy, Hoffman, Vork, and Cutler. Dahl, Judy A. Dahl, age 67. Services Tuesday, 10 a.m., First Lutheran Church in Papillion. Memorials to the church. John A. Gentleman, 72nd Street Chapel in charge. Eden, Frances Joan Eden, age 81. Funeral services Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. at the mortuary to St. Bridget's Catholic Church at 10 a.m. Memorials to St. Bridget's Church, Karisko Larkin Staskevich Funeral Home in charge. Fletcher, Cleora P. Shear Fletcher, born June 30th, 1921, age 95. Family will receive friends Tuesday, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Bel Air Chapel. Memorials to Methodist Hospice, Heafy, Hoffman, Vork, Cutler in charge. Franks, Richard M. Franks. Services today, Monday at 10:30 a.m. at St. Bias Catholic Church, John A. Gentleman, 72nd Street. Horkey, Raymond Anton Ray Horkey, age 87. Funeral Mass on Tuesday at St. John Vianney Catholic Church. Memorials to the church. Bremen Mortuary in Southwest Chapel in charge. Jewett, Alice M. Jewett, age 88. Complete notice later. Bellevue Memorial Chapel of Heafy, Hoffman, Vork, Cutler. Keisters, Viola B. Keisters, age 90. Services pending. Roeder Mortuary, 108th Street Chapel. Kudlach, Francis J. Frank Kudlach, age 80. Mass of Christian burial Saturday, 10 a.m. at St. Joan of Arc Catholic Church. In lieu of flowers, memorial suggested to Sienna Francis House. He's a veteran, and the interment at St. John Cemetery will be with military honors. Bethany Funeral Home. Lawrence, Catherine Ann Lawrence, age 74. Private services will be held. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be directed to Project Harmony, Kramer Funeral Home in charge. McGowan, Alice Marie McGowan, born July 12, 1929. Mass of Christian burial Monday, June 12th at 10 a.m. at Christ the King Catholic Church. Heafy, Hoffman, Vork, Cutler, Bel Air Chapel. Myers, Karen Myers, age 77. Memorial service Monday, 11 a.m. at Roeder Mortuary, 108th Street Chapel. And they are in charge of the arrangements. Neitzel, Donald J. Neitzel, age 88. Funeral service Wednesday, June 14th, 10:30 a.m. at First United Methodist Church in Springfield. Memorials to Springfield Fire Department or Donor's Choice. Kaler Dulce Mortuary in Papillion in charge. Plambeck, Helen Marie Plambeck, age 78. Funeral service 11 a.m. Tuesday at Thanksgiving Lutheran Church in Bellevue. Family will direct memorials. John A. Gentleman, Bellevue, Sarpy County Chapel. Polson, James T. Polson, age 78. Complete notice later. Heafy, Hoffman, Dvorak, Cutler, Bel Air Chapel in charge. Sullivan, Robert Francis Sullivan, age 87. He is also a veteran. Funeral Mass Tuesday, 10 a.m. at Christ the King Catholic Church. Interment at Resurrection with military honors. Memorials to Bethlehem House. Heafy, Hoffman, Dvorak, Cutler, Bel Air Chapel. Upton, I'm sorry. Upton, Thomas E. Upton Sr., age 72, funeral service Monday, 11 a.m., celebration Covenant Church. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the church. He is also a veteran. John A. Gentleman Mortuaries and Crematory, Pacific Street Chapel, in charge.
And the following death notices appear in the Lincoln Journal-Star. Beeson, Michael John Beeson, 57, of Lincoln. Mass will be at 11 a.m. Friday, June 16th at St. John the Apostle Church in Lincoln, and condolences can be sent to aspenaftercare.com. Bigley, Donna Bell Bigley of Crab Orchard, was 89 years old and passed away on June 7th. Boole, Sharon Boole, 72 years old, of Lincoln. Cremation, no service. Family will greet friends from 1 to 2 p.m. Monday at Metcalf Funeral Home in Lincoln. Krause, Lorraine Krause, 95 years old, formerly of Lincoln. A graveside service will take place at 10 a.m. Tuesday, the 13th, at Wyucka Cemetery, metcalffuneralservices.com. Fielder Day, Virginia R. Fielder Day, of Lincoln, 94 years old. Services will be held at 12:30 p.m. Wednesday, June the 14th, at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Can be sent to lincolnfh.com. Edwards, John Mike Edwards, 71, of St. Joseph, Missouri, passed away June 5th. Farewell services will be 10 a.m. Saturday, June 17th at First Christian Church, St. Joseph, Missouri. The family will gather with friends from 6 to 8 p.m. Friday, the Meyerhofer Funeral Home and Crematory in St. Joseph, Missouri. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, the National Parkinson's Foundation, or First Christian Church. Erdman, Elaine May Erdman, formerly of DeWitt, passed away June 7th. Memorial services will be held at 10 a.m. Monday, June 12th at Trinity Lutheran Church in DeWitt. George, Dolores Irene George, 84, of York. Funeral arrangements are for 10 a.m. Wednesday, June the 14th, at the New Life Church of the Nazarene in York, and it will be held at Metz Mortuary. Gruwell, Gail Lynn Gruwell, of Lincoln, was 50 years old. She died on June the 7th. No services are listed. Hartwig, Frank A. Hartwig, 81 years old, of Omaha. A celebration of life will be held at a later date, and in lieu of flowers, memorials to the American Cancer Society or the Josie Harper Hospice House in Omaha. Heafy Hoffman Dvorak Cutler on West Center Road, Omaha will handle the arrangements. Hevelone, Frances May Hevelone, and I will spell that Hevelone, was 96, of Lincoln, and passed away June 8th. Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home will handle services 10 a.m. Tuesday, June the 13th. And Lincoln Memorial Park Cemetery, the memorials will be directed to the family for later designation. Howard, Carroll E. Howard, 79, of Lincoln, was an U.S. Air Force veteran. His service will be held 3 p.m. Monday, June the 19th at Lincoln Memorial. Hoy, Carol Marie Hoy, of Lincoln, was 80 years old. A celebration of Carol's life will be held at 11 a.m. Monday, June the 19th on the family acreage at 1905 Roca Road, Roca. In lieu of flowers, memorial donations may be made to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society or to the family of Carol Hoy Memorial. Online condolences may be left at lincolnnffc.com. Jensen, Cynthia D. Jensen, was 62 years old and died on June the 9th. Johnson, Viola L. Johnson, 70 years old, passed away Thursday, June 8th. Memorial services will be at 11 o'clock Wednesday, June the 14th at St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Lincoln. Memorials may be directed to her family to be distributed to Vi's favorite charities. Krause. Leonard V. Krause was 91 years old and was a World War II veteran. Memorial service will be at 2:30 p.m. on Monday, June the 12th at Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Crete. The Kunsel Funeral Home in Crete will handle the arrangements and memorials to the family for future designation. Langen, Marion Marie Langen, 54 years old, passed away from cancer on June the 3rd. A celebration of life will be held at 10 a.m. June the 17th at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center. In lieu of flowers, donations can be made to help sustain Marion's vision for Nebraska Audubon. LaRue, Josiah M. LaRue, was 24 years old and of Lincoln. He passed away June 5th. A celebration of Josiah's life will be at 11 a.m. Monday, June the 12th at the Lincoln Berrien Church. Memorials are suggested to the family for further designation. Marshall, Marcia Marie Marshall, was 62 years old of Lincoln. A memorial service to celebrate her life is set for 2 p.m. June the 15th at Southward Lutheran Church in Lincoln. Any memorials are greatly appreciated and suggested to the Fisher House Foundation. May, Duane Robin May, was born December 15th, 1948. He was 68 years old. A memorial service will be held at 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, June the 13th at Trinity Lutheran Church in Walton. Mackenzie, Clyde D. Mackenzie, was a veteran and died on June the 6th. He was 83 years old and he lived in Avoca. He was retired from the VA hospital in Lincoln. Visitation will be 1 to 6 p.m. with family from 4 to 6 Sunday at Hammond's Funeral Home in Weeping Water. The funeral service will be 11 a.m. Monday, the 11th, at Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints in Nebraska. Millam, Gregory George Gregg Millam, was a United States veteran. He served in the Navy. He was 63 years old and he was from Bennett. Memorial service will be 2 p.m. Tuesday, June the 13th at Roper and Sons Chapel. Memorials to the family for future designation. Odgers, Richard V. Odgers, 84, of Lincoln, passed away June 1st. He served as a pastor at the United Methodist Churches for 40 years before retiring in 1995. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to parkinsonsnebraska.org or to Nebraska Wesleyan University. Condolences may be left online at roperandsons.com. Pattitz, P-A-T-I-T-Z, Pattitz, Katie Pattitz, 85 years old, of Lincoln, formerly of McCool Junction, served proudly in the Marine Corps. A memorial service will be held at 10 a.m. Monday, June the 12th at McCool United Methodist Church. Metz Mortuary in York, memorials to McCool First United Methodist Church or the American Legion Post 341 in McCool Junction. Reichart, Patrick L. Reichart, of rural Nebraska, died on June 8th. Services are pending. Ring, Carla Diane Ring, died on May the 31st. Funeral services will be 11 a.m. Saturday, June the 17th at First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in Omaha. Memorial contributions can be made to the MS Society Midlands chapter. Ripa, Warren L. Ripa, was 93 years old, of Wilbur. Funeral services will be 10:30 a.m. on Monday, June 12th at Kunsel Funeral Home in Wilbur. Memorials will be given to the Louis Milan American Legion Post 101 or simply to the family for future designation. Smith, Dorothy E. Smith, 93 years old, of Lincoln, passed away June 5th. Funeral services will be 12:30 Monday, June the 12th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Stephen, Charles S. Stephen Jr., died May 29th. He was an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. A memorial service will be at 4 p.m. Saturday, June the 17th at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. Memorial gifts may be sent to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. Robert M. Bob Streeter died on June the 9th. He served in the Navy. A gathering for family and friends to celebrate Bob's life will be held from 3 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, June 18th at the Davie Community Center. Memorials may be given to the Salvation Army, which was Bob's favorite charity. Swanson, Dr. Noble Leroy Swanson was 77 years old and served in the United States Air Force. Memorial services were held. Memorials to St. Michael Catholic Church, the Purple Martin Observatory, the Waukesha Audubon Society. Thompson, Joyce C. Thompson, was 78 years old and was from Lincoln. And funeral services will be held at 3 o'clock June 13th at Temple Baptist Church in Lincoln. Memorials may be given to Temple Baptist Church Camp Fund in Joyce's name. Wagoner, Kevin Wagner, was 42 years old of Hickman and died June the 7th. Hickman, Buderus, Miser, and Love Funeral Home will handle arrangements. The funeral will be 1 o'clock Monday at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the family for later designation. Waldeman, Grace E. Waldeman, was 83 years old and died June 9th. Westergren Julie A. was age 59 of Lincoln, and a celebration of Julie's life will be held at 12:30 on Tuesday, June 13th at Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. And Whitaker, James D. Whitaker, passed away on June the 7th. His hometown was North Platte. A memorial has been established to the Mid-Nebraska Community Foundation or the First United Methodist Church. And that completes our death notices for this morning. Listener memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as Donor's Choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter.
Medical alert. Medical alert monitoring 24/7, 365 at the push of a button.
It should come back.
SCI, your local medical alert provider.
It's like stuck.
It's stuck? Good heavens, we're locked in.
Or visit
I need to make a phone, this purse with my phone in it out of here in case it rains. It's really loud.
Thank you very much, Joanne.
Gosh, that was a lot of them.
That was a lot of them.
Yeah, it was terrible. That's why I started looking through that and I thought, I don't think I can do it in time unless we go a little earlier.
Yeah.
Or we were right.
Yeah.
All right, so hold that out of the way. Back to my list of. Okay. Next, we will be doing editorials. Editorials are. You can go first, right?
Okay. I'll just read a couple of letters and then you can.
Okay.
You have letters?
Yeah.
Profile America, Monday, June 12th. The 1960s was a time of great social change and one of the landmark advances in freedom afforded all Americans by civil rights was made on this date 50 years ago. The U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling in the case of Loving versus Virginia, which determined that a state law prohibiting interracial marriage was unconstitutional. In the United States of 1960, there were 157,000 interracial married couples. By 1992, that total had surged to almost 1.2 million. In the 2010 census, over 9 million residents, almost 3% of the population, reported being of two or more races. That's a 32% increase in the multi-race category from the 2000 census. You can find more facts about America's people, places, and economy from the American Community Survey at census.gov.
You're listening to the Radio Talking Book Network in Nebraska. We've been proudly serving our blind and visually impaired listeners now for over 42 years. Here's the Radio Talking Book Network is brought to you with the cooperation of KIOS-FM Omaha and statewide community television, radio and television. Now let's return to our fine readers for the second hour of reading from the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star. Here once again are our stars, Deanne Bryden and Judy Bryce.
From the Public Pulse in the Omaha World Herald, we have some letters. The first is from Jerry Freeman of Omaha. Regarding the June 3rd World Herald article, Corvette leads troopers on high-speed chase, strikes 2 vehicles. I drive on West Dodge Road, Interstate 680, Blondo Street, and 132nd Street. The chase had a lucky ending, but chases of this sort should not happen in our city. We just lucked out that nobody was hurt this time. Rob Butler of Omaha writes, June 9th, Public Pulse writer Joan Crouchley would like to know Omaha Mayor Gene Stothart's position on climate after the U.S. withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement. I do not want or need to know her stance. This was an agreement of nations, not cities. If it had anything to do with pollution, China and India would be required to do the most, not receive an exemption. This accord was about taking money from me, Crouchley, and every other American. If Crouchley and others wish to send their money to despots who oppress their subjects, they can do that, but I do not wish to be a part of it. Steve Rule of Ralston writes, at work recently, I was able to complete more projects than I had anticipated. As I drove home, glowing with a sense of real accomplishment, I heard a discussion on the radio about simplifying the filing of income tax forms. I thought, heck, I can do this. So here it is. Individuals don't pay any federal income tax on the first $60,000 they make. That would be $120,000 for couples filing jointly. Any amount over that would be taxed at 35%. Capital gains would be considered as income, and there would be no deductions. Simple. Oh yes, we need to fix Social Security and Medicare too. All income would be taxed for Social Security and Medicare with no limits. Done and done. Now, about the Middle East.
And this article is by Ruben Navarrete Jr. Comey proves he is no hero. It's now clear that James Comey is a highly capable lawyer with only one client, James Comey. The former FBI director may not need an attorney, but he could really use a public relations firm to help him rehabilitate his image. That's because if you paid attention to Comey's testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee, you know that President Trump isn't the only person with a credibility problem. The anti-Trump media are hammering away at what Trump did wrong, including the president's clumsy decision to fire Comey, while the FBI was looking into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Yet the media, which seems to have forgotten that they tried to tear Comey to pieces when he interjected himself into the 2016 election in a way that was detrimental to Hillary Clinton, have been lax in pointing out how the former FBI director fouled up in his dealings with Trump. None of this excuses Trump. According to Comey, the president asked Comey if he wanted to keep his job, inquired whether he was under investigation as part of the FBI's probe into Russian meddling in the election, and expressed his hope that the Bureau would drop its inquiry into the conduct of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. All of this was inappropriate. Some Republicans on the Senate panel tried to depict the exchanges as casual conversations. What foolishness! There is no such thing as casual when you're at the White House and talking to the President of the United States, someone who has the power to relieve you of your duties, and he tells you what he'd like you to do. As he said during his testimony, Comey took Trump's comment as a direction, albeit one that he did not follow. But here's the important part. How did Comey respond? That depends. Are we talking about the image that Comey is trying to construct now, or what he did at those moments when Trump came to him with his concerns? Big difference. In the light of present day, Comey wants the senators and the rest of the country to see him as a paradigm of virtue, a pillar of independence, and a model of integrity. In this narrative, Comey as martyr, which you will undoubtedly be able to read for yourself one day in an 8-figure memoir, the former FBI director stood up to the bully in chief. It was the right thing to do, and he was punished for doing it. According to this telling of the story, Trump got more than he bargained for. At one point, he invited Comey to the White House for a meal. And guess who came to dinner? Eliot Ness. But that's not what really happened. Defiance was not on the menu. Comey wrote in his notes and repeated in his testimony that Trump told him, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty." Wow, what did Comey do? Well, he should have gotten up and left, or smiled politely and said nothing at all, or changed the subject and commented on how good the soup was. But the former FBI director did not do any of that. According to his own notes and his own testimony, he told the president that the best he could offer was honest loyalty. Uh-oh, there's that L word again. It's likely that Trump thought the two men had reached an agreement. Besides, when you're the FBI director, and if you're really the Eagle Scout that you pretend to be, you have no business pledging your loyalty to anyone or anything but the truth. And when Trump asked Comey to clarify whether he was under investigation, what did Comey do? Again, he should have gotten up and walked out or changed the subject. Instead, Comey did something that no prosecutor should ever do. He showed his cards. Again, according to his own words, he told Trump that he was not under investigation. This is a guy who seems to have been so intimidated by Trump and the trappings of the White House, and so desperate to keep his job as one of the nation's top law enforcement officers, that he was much too compliant, much too polite, and much too accommodating. Are these really the actions of a hero? Comey was invited to dinner at the White House, but the person who showed up and got weak in the knees was not Eliot Ness. It was Barney Fife.
And some additional letters in the Public Pulse from the Reverend David R. Holmes of Council Bluffs. According to Cal Thomas, hysteria over Paris pullout unmerited, June 7th World Herald. The whole world and most world leaders have been fooled, and only Cal Thomas and President Donald Trump are correct about climate change. Isn't it wonderful to have such a smart president? From Maureen Wells of Norman, Oklahoma, I noticed a small article on Dale Chihuly and found that his latest art technique can be seen in the new Chihuly Sanctuary at the Buffett Cancer Center in Omaha. I'm so impressed with Omaha and its art. The best art exhibits that I've seen in years have been in Omaha. Stuart Williams of Omaha writes, occasionally the otherwise dysfunctional Trump administration will say something that makes sense. To wit, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly said Americans' demand for drugs is what is fueling the violence in Mexico. Officials, U.S. must deal with drug demand to help Mexico, May 21st, World Herald. We Americans must own this problem, Tillerson said. It is ours. The horrible truth, horrific levels of violence, at least 80,000 since 2006, murders of journalists, massive corruption, all because Americans want their drugs and because both the American and Mexican governments have decided that military and police force are the solutions. The war on drugs is a colossal failure. Drugs are more available and cheaper than ever. Millions of lives have been ruined. The problem needs to be dealt with as a public health issue, not a military one. Will the U.S. pay reparations to Mexico? Of course not. Will the Trump administration take common sense measures? Doubtful. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has decided to take the get tough approach to drug users, and the Trump budget calls for slashing the Office of National Drug Control by 95%, back to dysfunctional reality. Deanna Kudiel of Omaha writes, a recent visit to Mahoney State Park on June 1st was refreshing in more ways than one. We saw 4 buses of Bellevue Public Schools Air Force ROTC members at the water park enjoying some R&R. Being from an Air Force family, I took pride in their manners, respect, and general behavior. I'm sure they worked hard to have the reward of the visit, and I'm glad we got to see them have fun. Congratulations to the instructors, and best of luck to the young men and women. Well done. And a final letter from Jerry Gomanovich of Omaha. My wife and I have lived in Omaha for almost 34 years. I recently started thinking about things that have changed and how much there is to enjoy in Omaha. Changing the structure of the administration of the Omaha Community Playhouse did not mean a loss in quality of performances. After seeing Beauty and the Beast, I decided there seems to be no threat to the reputation of one of our star attractions. If you don't see this show, you will be missing something spectacular.
This following article is by Kathleen Parker. If only he would stop tweeting. Those words came from a friend of mine named Jack, quite possibly President Trump's biggest fan. A former Secret Service agent, Jack is your typical diehard Trump supporter. That is to say, he's a white Christian male married with 2 kids. He's honest, hardworking, a true blue patriot, brave and loyal to the core. And he and I are at political odds these days and argue frequently about Trump. Yes, but is about all I can get out before Jack is off on a rollicking defense of the president, whom he finds utterly unobjectionable, except, that is, for those dadgum tweets. What? Yes, even Jack was appalled by Trump's tweets about London Mayor Sadiq Khan following the London terror attack. Hearing about them propelled Jack into a 40-minute tirade, he told me. Maybe there's hope after all. The only hitch is that Jack thinks Trump would be fine if only he'd stop blurting unfiltered thoughts on social media. The first of the tweets in question came the morning after the London incident. Trump cited the casualty numbers, then added, Mayor of London says there's no reason to be alarmed. Utterly wrong and false. Fake news, if you will. What Khan had said was that Londoners should not be alarmed by the increased police presence. Therein lies several magnitudes of difference. Thus, we infer Trump either opted to be repugnantly antagonistic or balefully misinformed. The latter might have been forgivable had Trump admitted as much, but no. And instead, this childish man, or is it mannish child, doubled down. In a subsequent tweet, he wrote, pathetic excuse by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who had to think fast on his no reason to be alarmed statement. One doesn't know whether to scream or scream louder. Surely even Trump can't believe that people are so gullible as to accept that the media, in reporting Khan's complete quote rather than the abridged presidential version, are trying to put something over. But then Trump doesn't have to believe it. He knows his fans will consume whatever he serves up because they elected him, didn't they?
From the op-ed page, we have police focus on lasting changes. Zachary Bearheels did not have to die June 5th. Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmaderer acknowledged Friday that we failed when officers confronted the 29-year-old man who suffers from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Bearheels stopped breathing after one officer shocked him with a taser a dozen times, including while he was handcuffed, and after another officer punched Bearheels several times in the head, including after he had stopped moving. Schmaderer responded swiftly, recommending firing those 2 officers. 2 others remain under investigation. The chief identified 3 problems illustrated by the Bearheels tragedy. First, no officer took charge of the scene, including an officer who had received specialized training in dealing with mentally ill adults. Second, officers violated key policies and procedures. They're trained to use a taser no more than 3 times to avoid health risks and to stop striking a motionless suspect. And third, all 4 officers subject to investigation had less than 5 years of experience. The chief set out sensible steps to address those issues. First, requiring all officers to review use of tasers and training to de-escalate interactions with a person in crisis. Dealing with an emotionally agitated person, whether because of mental illness, drugs, or other circumstances, is a difficult job that officers face on a regular basis. Second, increasing field supervision. Having a sergeant present when the situation with bare heels devolved could have improved the outcome given the experience level of officers at the scene. And third, seeking to hire experienced, mature officers from other departments as the police force expands its number of sworn officers from 860 to 900, up from 800 as recently as 4 years ago. Schmaderer deserves credit for acting quickly and publicly to acknowledge his department's errors and announcing steps to improve. No apology or firings will bring back bare heels or ease his family's suffering, but strengthened training and diligence in following policy and procedures should help officers interact more appropriately with people in crisis.
The following article appears in Ask the Doctors. Dear Doctor, a friend suggested I try MSM crystals for arthritis. What do they do? And how are they? And what do they do? And where can I find them? Dear Reader, methyl sulfonylmethane is an organic sulfur-containing compound naturally found in plants like Brussels sprouts, garlic, asparagus, kale, beans, and wheat germ. It can also be found in horsetail, an herbal remedy. MSM, which has been touted as a treatment for arthritis, is related to a similar compound, dimethyl sulfoxide, that has been shown to have anti-inflammatory properties. MSM may have anti-inflammatory properties as well, but different from those associated with aspirin or nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory agents known as NSAIDs. Unlike DMSO, which is a liquid applied at room temperature, MSM is a white crystalline compound, hence the reference to crystals. As for whether it works, well, let's look at the evidence. A 2011 study performed in Israel assessed its impact on 50 people with arthritis of the knee. 25 patients took a placebo, while 25 took 1.125 grams of MSM 3 times per day for 12 weeks. At 12 weeks, symptoms had worsened by 14% in the placebo group, but improved by 20% in the MSM group. Pain had increased by 9% in the placebo group, but had decreased by 21% in the MSM group. Note that this is a 12-week study. Users noted, one second, my article just went away. I will get it back, no worries. Here we go. A 2006 study also assessed MSM's impact on people with arthritis of the knee, with 25 people receiving a placebo and the other 25 receiving a 3-gram dose of MSM twice a day. At 12 weeks, pain had decreased by 25% in the MSM group and by 13% in the placebo group. The physical function of the knee also improved with the MSM, but stiffness improved only slightly as compared to the placebo. This higher dose of MSM was associated with the mild side effects of bloating and constipation. And one other interesting note, the study authors found no change in inflammatory markers with MSM.
From the Heloise column, dear readers, today's sound off is about house rules at the lake. Dear Heloise, 3 years ago, my husband and I built our retirement home on a beautiful lake where we hope to enjoy a relaxed lifestyle. However, our children, we have 6 between the 2 of us, and a couple of our friends tend to drop in a lot. So this year, I wrote everyone a letter with the lake house rules. Hello to all. As much as we love all of you, we need to set down some new house rules for all of you to follow. We ask that you respect these rules and not ask us to make exceptions. First, please wait to be invited to our home. Do not drop in, even if you happen to be in the neighborhood. Second, bring your own towels and snacks. Third, due to my husband's health, we need to limit our entertaining and babysitting to no more than a couple of days. That's from Margaret S. of Kenosha, Wisconsin. And Heloise says, readers, do any of you have similar problems with visitors? Dear Heloise, I have no idea where lost socks go, but it seems my husband has several pairs that are missing their mate. This is what I do with those lonely single socks. I keep one in the glove compartment of my car for covering my hand when I'm scraping the windshield in winter, or to pick something up I'd rather not touch with my bare hand. They make wonderful dust rags. Just slip your hand inside. I have one in my laundry room to put loose change in when I check pockets before washing. I gave one to my young son to put his small plastic toys inside so they don't get lost. And that's from a reader via email. Dear Heloise, I've been a jeweler for nearly 30 years, and I have some advice for young men who are considering surprising their girlfriend with an engagement ring. As lovely as it is to surprise a woman with a proposal, it might be better to let her select the ring she'll wear for the rest of her life. If you two are shopping together for rings, give her a price range to select from. Limit yourself to what you can reasonably afford. If she would rather have a colored gem than a diamond, let her have what she wants, but stay within your budget. Do not bring a third or fourth person along with you. This is a private matter, and you don't need a third opinion. It doesn't matter what her mother or best friend thinks about her ring. Shop around for a style and price you both can live with after all the excitement dies down. That's from Ronald P. of Norman, Oklahoma. And Heloise writes to her dear readers, the average wedding in America costs between $26,000 and $35,000. Almost half of millennials say they will wait to wed until after the age of 30. Utah has the youngest brides with an average age of 23.5 for women and 25.6 for men. Washington, D.C. has the oldest brides with an average age of 29.8 for women and 30.6 for men.
Dear Amy, I am a grandmother of 9 grandchildren. My family jokes we put the fun in dysfunctional. We are a gang of PTSD-ridden alcoholics and traumatized individuals with high ACE scores. Some of us are in 12-step programs, some of us are not. Looking forward to the occasion of our eldest grandson's high school graduation is a cause of stress for me. Some of us have the tendency to say hurtful and intentionally divisive things to each other behind everyone's backs. This is led and egged on by my spouse's ex, the other grandparent of this boy. I would love to begin the family gathering with a statement such as, "Hi, it's great to see everyone. Don't forget that if you have a problem with someone, please bring it up to them first and not to another person. Also, by the way, remarks about other people's bodies or clothing are not appropriate unless specifically requested. As one of the elders of this gathering, would it be appropriate for me to say this? I know that it is technically supposed to be all about the young graduate. However, in my experience, things do degenerate quickly into feuding. Do you have any suggestions? Granny of 9. Granny, given the dynamics you described, my basic reaction is that if you kick off this event by lecturing fellow guests, you will likely hasten the inevitable descent into feuding. The good news is that these family members will likely spare one another, but will turn on you. To clarify a detail in your question, a high ACE score means you have a family member who reports a high level of abuse and neglect in childhood. This test was developed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. By answering 10 questions, people can arrive at a score, which, in a basic sense, measures their family dysfunction. A high score indicates increased risk for a variety of health and mental health issues, as well as substance abuse. But a high ACE score does not uniformly guarantee an adulthood of dysfunction. And this is where you come in. The grandchildren in your family can possibly avoid this rough legacy if they have even one reasonable, loving, and consistent supportive person in their corner. And you could be that person. Stand up for yourself and for other family members who are being bullied. Opt out of meaningless drink-fueled fights. Keep your focus on the young graduate and other young and or reasonable family members. Dear Amy, I am in my 60s. I just learned from Ancestry.com DNA that I'm 30% Jewish, and I had no idea. My parents are deceased, and I have no siblings. The only family member who would also have the Jewish DNA is my cousin. I wrote to her to see if she knew about this. It's not that I'm not proud, but I'm freaking out that no one in my family ever told me this. Am I overreacting? Dear Wondering, with increasingly complex and accurate DNA testing available commercially, many people are discovering a lot of things about their family origin that was either deliberately concealed or simply lost to time. One article I read on this pointed out that many American Hispanics are discovering Jewish DNA based on deep roots in Spain, when Jews were expelled from the Iberian Peninsula in 1492. You might not have been told about this because your parents might not have even been aware of their own ethnic roots. Certainly, if you have any European family roots, there is some likelihood that you would discover some Jewish DNA links. This DNA does not make you Jewish, but it is significant and fascinating. Unfortunately, without living elders, it will be more challenging for you to trace back your own heritage via oral history. But I encourage you to continue to climb your family tree. This information might also be fascinating to your cousin, and it is generous of you to share it. But don't push her if she's not particularly interested.
Some events that are happening this week. We have Project Harmony. The Papillion Area Lions Club will host the 16th annual Hops for Harmony at Werner Park in Papillion on Wednesday. The event from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. offers beer tasting and food and serves as a benefit for Project Harmony. Project Harmony of Omaha is a nonprofit that provides immediate and sensitive support services to child abuse victims and their non-offending family members. Tickets are $40 in advance and $50 at the gate. For tickets or more information, go to hopsforharmony.com. And also learn about the upcoming solar eclipse visible in Nebraska on Tuesday at the Slowdown, 729 North 14th Street. David Kreigler with the University of Nebraska at Omaha Physics Department will present the program at 7 p.m. about the total solar eclipse visible for the first time in 26 years. A question and answer period will follow. Pizza will be provided for the first 50 people. Doors open at 6 p.m. Admission for the Science Cafe event is free. For more information, go to unmc.edu/sciencecafe. And also Market and Music. Pack a shopping bag and blanket for the Council Bluffs Farmers Market and Music in the Park on Thursday at Bayless Park, 100 Pearl Street. The market from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. features vendors with farm-raised products, prepared food items, and handmade crafts. The band Mariachi Zapata of Omaha will also perform at 6:30 p.m. as part of the weekly music series. Admission is free.
The following article appears in Office Coach. Question: I recently discovered that one of my coworkers is a registered sex offender. This creep was previously convicted of second-degree sexual assault on a female. When the owners of the company I work for hired him, they obviously failed to thoroughly check his background. I have worked with convicted felons and believe they should be allowed to continue with their lives after paying their debt to society. However, I am so disgusted by this potential rapist that I can hardly stand to be around him. Even though I would love to get rid of the guy, I'm conflicted about telling the owners. What's your opinion? Answer: I completely understand your visceral reaction to this colleague's questionable past. One complicating factor, however, is that some registry offenses are less serious than the description implies. For example, a teenager might have a consensual relationship with a minor near his age. Although this is a common occurrence, it is nevertheless illegal. So before labeling your coworker as a potential rapist, you need more specific facts. Since convictions are a matter of public record, details could probably be obtained by contacting the clerk of court in the jurisdiction where the offense occurred. But regardless of the circumstances, management should definitely be given this information. As employers, the owners are legally responsible for both the safety of others and proper treatment of this employee. To make an informed decision about his continued employment, they will need to seek out legal advice, as numerous state and federal laws may apply. And for your own protection, they must agree to keep your identity confidential. Of course, you may find that the owners have already assessed the situation and decided to give this guy a chance. But if they were clueless about the record, a comprehensive background check should immediately be added to the company's hiring process. Question: after our small business was sold to a large corporation, all salaries were immediately frozen. On a recent visit, our new CEO said this freeze was permanent and there would be no raises for the foreseeable future. However, to show how much he cares, the CEO has now arranged for a frozen lemonade truck to come by every Friday. We each get one free lemonade pop. Does this guy not see that giving us treats instead of raises is insulting? Answer: as many have learned before you, nothing is certain after an acquisition. You are now working for an entirely different company, and that company is trying to standardize pay by merging your old compensation system with their own. Based on the pay freeze, either your former owners were overly generous or your new employer is extremely frugal. If salaries in your small business were comparatively high, eliminating raises will begin to bring them back to market rate. But if the acquiring company pays well below market, then you may now work at a sweatshop. Either way, raises won't be reappearing anytime soon. However, you might ask human resources for a better explanation of this compensation decision. And perhaps you could diplomatically explain why frozen salaries and frozen treats are a bad combination.
Uber CEO Travis Kalanick could be required to leave the company temporarily as the ride-hailing service struggles to recover from months of controversies, according to multiple reports. Uber's board is considering the management move, as well as a raft of other policy changes linked to a workplace culture report being prepared by a high-powered law firm and former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. Under the report's recommendations, Emil Michael, Uber's Senior Vice President of Business, could also be forced out, according to the New York Times. The board consists of 7 voting members, including Kalanick himself. Stepping down as CEO, even temporarily, would be a major setback for Kalanick, who founded the company in 2009 and has been running it ever since, despite mounting criticism of the hard-charging office environment he helped create.
In business news, the Nebraska Public Agency Investment Trust, or NPAIT, announces the appointment of 3 new members to its Board of Trustees, as well as the full slate of officers and board members. Year after year, I'm amazed at the level of experience we have on our board, said Richard Wassinger, NPAIT chairman. We have a very strong foundation of leadership in place, and we couldn't be more pleased with these appointments. Each of the new members' range in expertise in public work will bring insightful perspectives to our board. Joining the Board of Trustees are Roma Amundsen, Caleb Johnson, and Jody Sanders. Roma Amundsen, Lancaster County Commissioner. Amundsen is serving her second term on the Lancaster County Board and represents Southeast Lancaster County. Amundsen retired from the military after 33 years of service, rising from enlisted rank to that of Brigadier General. Her last military assignment was as the Assistant Adjutant General of the Nebraska Army National Guard. She has commanded at all levels, from company and detachment through brigade, and has held numerous staff and directorate assignments. A businesswoman since 1982, she was first involved with insurance and financial projects in 1996. Amundsen became a realtor where she is currently employed. Caleb Johnson, Keith County Commissioner. Caleb Johnson is currently in his third year as a Keith County Commissioner. Johnson, who is currently the chairman, serves as a liaison to the Emergency Operations Center, Visitors Committee, and Technology Committee for Keith County. Jody Sanders, City of Fremont Director of Finances. Jody J. Sanders, CPA, has served the City of Fremont, Nebraska as Director of the Finance for 6 years, in addition to nearly 4 years of accounting finance management. Prior to working in local government, Sanders worked 9 years in public accounting, auditing local governments. She is currently the president of the Great Plains chapter of the Government Finance Officers Association.
Millennials need different approach to college funds. Many millennials who know the burdens of student debt could be aiming to treat college savings a bit differently from their parents. After becoming parents, about 56% of millennials began setting aside money for college for their children sometime between birth and age 5. That compares with only 33% of baby boomers who did that, according to the How America Saves for College 2016 report released last fall by Sallie Mae, the private student loan giant, and Ipsos, an independent global market research company. They are paying attention, said Robin Lott, executive director of the Michigan Education Trust and program manager for the Michigan Education Savings Program and the MI 529 Advisors Plan. Maybe, Lott said, some younger consumers recognize how much they benefited when their parents saved for them, or they don't want their children to be overburdened by student loans. Whatever it is, I applaud them. Some tips to consider whether a child is in kindergarten or high school when it comes to college savings. Don't overlook tax-savvy college savings plans. While 529 college savings plans hit a record $248 billion in assets at the end of 2016, many parents still aren't using such plans. The Sallie Mae Ipsos study of parents with children younger than 18 noted that 61% of parents who are saving for college for their children do so with a general savings account. Prepare for higher rates on student loans. The average account balance in 529 plans is about $21,000, based on information from the College Savings Plans Network. So most families aren't paying the full cost of college just by tapping into savings. Federal student loans remain part of the picture. Beginning July 1st, interest rates on federal student loans will increase by 0.69 percentage points. The new rate is 4.45% for undergraduate Stafford loans, 6% for Stafford loans for graduate student, and 7% for the federal Parent Plus loan. Don't expect too much in scholarship cash. It's tempting to tell yourself that your child will get a full ride so you don't need to save. We all hear plenty of happy stories during high school graduation season, but your star high school student might be looking at $1,500 or less in scholarship cash. The average scholarship based on scholarships that are not controlled by the college ends up being just under $4,000 a year, even though that average includes some fairly large-sized awards. About $6 billion in private scholarships are awarded each year. That does not include money awarded by the college, which is just a discount on tuition. Parents need to understand that fewer than 1% of students win a completely free ride through scholarships.
All right, and moving along now to sports. Sidney Crosby is bringing the Stanley Cup back home to Pittsburgh for a second consecutive year. Patrick Hornquist scored with 1 minute, 35 seconds left, and Matt Murray made 27 saves for his second straight shutout as the Penguins became the National Hockey League's first team in nearly 2 decades to repeat as national champions following a 2-0 win over the Nashville Predators in Game 6 Sunday night. The Penguins won their 5th title, all of which have been clinched on the road, to tie the Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier era Edmonton Oilers for 6th on the all-time list. The Detroit Red Wings in 1997 and 98 were the last champions to defend their title, but the Penguins are the first to do it in the salary cap era. We knew it was going to be tough all year, but we just tried to keep with it, said Crosby, who won his second Conn Smythe Trophy as postseason MVP. We had a lot of injuries and things like that. We just kept finding ways, though. That was really what we did all season, all playoffs, and it was great to be able to do it.
Davis Love III is making his 24th appearance in the U.S. Open with one big difference. He'll only have clubs in his hand to clean them, not hit any shots. And for the first time, he'll be wearing shorts at a major championship. Love is caddying for his son. Davis Love IV, who just finished at Alabama and turned pro, qualified for his first U.S. Open as an alternate from the Georgia sectional qualifier. I'm excited for him, Love said Sunday afternoon as he watched from some 300 yards away as his son, who goes by Drew, teed off during a practice round with Ryder Cup captain Jim Furyk. I played with a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds, but it makes me feel old that he's playing. Drew Love won't officially be in the U.S. Open field until the world ranking is published. The USGA held back 6 spots for anyone who moved into the top 60 in the world ranking after this week. Chris Wood of England finished right at number 60, meaning the other 5 spots are distributed to alternates. The Georgia section, where Love was first alternate, was number 5 on the list. The son will have plenty of experience on the bag. Love won the PGA Championship in 1997 at Winged Foot when Drew was 3. He also is a 2-time Ryder Cup captain who will be inducted in the World Golf Hall of Fame this fall. Love played his first U.S. Open at age 24 in 1988, and he was a runner-up in 1996 at Oakland Hills. The 53-year-old Love has been slowed by a bad back this year and had no intention of trying to qualify for the U.S. Open until he caddied for his son at the first stage of U.S. Open qualifying, and Drew made it to the sectional qualifier. Love played in the Columbus, Ohio qualifier and missed out by 8 shots. The main reason I went is because he was going, Love said. I thought if I don't try and he gets in, I had to try.
The Lincoln Salt Dogs bats were as hot as the Nebraska sun Sunday, sweeping the Salina Stockade with a 17-4 victory at Haymarket Park for a franchise record 11 straight wins at home. The previous record was set from the end of the 2006 season and beginning of the 2007 season. We have a great club, and the guys are working together, outfielder Randolph Udeber said. When a team plays together as a team, they are going to play good. Even when they are down, guys are all together. Nobody is separated from each other, and I think the best thing that you can do is everybody stay together and win together. Christian Ibarra, Obider, and Dashenko Ricardo each belted a 3-run home run, and Trevor Adams added a grand slam as the Lincoln offense gave starter Derek Gordon a lot of wiggle room on the mound. And also, this sports editorial by Stephen M. Sipple, Culture Not an Issue at NU Yet. Covering Nebraska football can be much like covering politics. And that was glaringly apparent during the early 2000s when Steve Peterson put wheels in motion to fire Frank Solich. Throughout much of the 2003 season, the pro-Solich faction and the pro-Peterson folks sparred like Republicans and Democrats. What fun. No, not really. Nowadays, it's difficult to imagine Nebraska football without factions in the fan base. That is, unless the Huskers go 60-3, as was the case from 1993-97. I heard from various factions Saturday as news broke that four-star Nebraska freshman receiver Kayshawn Johnson Jr. was cited Friday for marijuana possession. Told you it was a house of cards, smoke and mirrors, texted one passionate Husker fan. Johnson Jr.'s citation occurred 2 weeks after news broke that Nebraska standout junior receiver Stanley Morgan Jr. and junior safety Antonio Reed were arrested in Port Orange, Florida for misdemeanor possession of marijuana. Little weed busts. Who cares? A Husker fan from the pro Mike Riley faction told me at a party Saturday night before quickly asking, "You think Tanner Lee's an NFL quarterback?" We're in an interesting period of Nebraska football history. What's particularly intriguing is the number of people who seem okay with the Huskers winning only 8 games this season. Those folks blame the state of affairs on Bo Pelini's lackluster recruiting and the culture he left behind. That faction will tell you and company have plenty to overcome.
In softball news, Nebraska recruit Riley Unzicker was recently selected as one of 46 players to participate in the Premier Girls Fast Pitch High School All-Star Game. The July 28th contest is at Bill Barber Park in Irvine, California. Unzicker, who graduated from Millard South, will begin her NU career in the fall. Unzicker's Nebraska teammate Tristan Edwards played in the inaugural event in 2016. And in track and field news, 3 from Eugene, Oregon, 3 athletes with local ties earned All-America honors at the NCAA Championships. Papillion La Vista graduate Kenzo Cotton anchored Arkansas's 400-meter relay team to a 7th place finish. The Razorbacks posted a 38.82 to help Arkansas to a 4th place finish in the team race. 2 women's javelin throwers also finished in the top 8. Caitlin Gochenauer, a Duke freshman who graduated from Omaha Marian, was 6th with a 178.0. Texas A&M junior Audrey Malone, who attended Fillmore Central, was 7th at 175.4.
Turning now to the French Open, as he sat in front of a TV to watch last year's French Open final, sidelined by an injured left wrist, Rafael Nadal had no way to know whether he would return to the height of his powers. For the second time in a row, the most important match at the most important clay court tournament was being contested without him. As the 2017 edition of Roland Garros began, Nadal's drought without a Grand Slam title was stretching to 3 full years. "It was difficult," said Nadal's uncle and coach Tony. "We were asking ourselves whether he would be able to achieve this one more time." Turned out that he could, and he did. As masterful as at any time, overwhelmingly good from the start to finish in Sunday's final, and for the entire 2 weeks, Nadal won his record 10th French Open title with a 6-2, 6-3, 6-1 victory over 2015 champion Stan Wawrinka. "A perfect Roland Garros for me," Nadal said. "Call it a perfect 10, or as the Nadals preferred, la décima, Spanish for the 10th.
From Gothenburg, Nebraska, UNK sophomore Brandy Lemick collected 3 of 11 birdies made Sunday by the 14 golfers in the championship flight for a 1-stroke lead after the first round of the Nebraska Women's Amateur Championship. Lemick from Donovan was at 1 under before a triple bogey 7 on Wild Horse's 7th hole. She got back to par with 2 birdies before taking bogeys on 3 of the final 7 holes for a 3 over 75 on the 6,039-yard course. Nicole Barmettler of Omaha, who plays for Truman State, shot 76 without a birdie. At 77, our former Scottsbluff High teammates Caitlin Grzanowski and Kim Moore and Husker golfer Haley Thiele of Wahoo. The 54-hole tournament finishes Tuesday.
Turning now to boxing, Evander Holyfield, boxing's only 4-time world heavyweight champion, was inducted Sunday into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and the real deal delivered one more time. The youngest of 9 children, Holyfield spent nearly his entire speech crediting his mother and his siblings for much of his success. Holyfield's impressive career spanned more than 3 decades, 160 wins as an amateur, 44 more as a pro, and included undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight titles and 2 very memorable fights against Mike Tyson and another against Riddick Bowe.
LeBron James knows who his dream teammates would be in a 3-on-3 competition at the 2020 Olympics: Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. Jordan and Johnson's names came to James without any hesitation when asked by the Associated Press which past greats he would like to play with. The Cavaliers star was a bit more reserved when he came to picking present-day players. "I don't know. I have to think about it," James said. Not that James or Magic or Michael is participating. James didn't think he would consider playing in the new Olympic event in the Tokyo Games, but is happy it was added. "It's great for basketball," he said. "For us to be able to add another category to the Olympics, another basketball category, I think it's pretty great. I haven't seen the full layout of how they plan on executing it. Are they going to use NBA guys or are they going to use college guys? I'm not quite sure. I'm not very good in a 3-on-3 thing. I'm more of a 5-on-5 guy." The new Olympic event was added Friday by the International Olympic Committee. There will be 8 men's teams and 8 women's teams competing. As far as what teams are selected and how teams qualify, that's still unclear. They don't want just the basketball powers to compete in 3-on-3, said USA Basketball CEO Jim Tooley. FIBA will get together and figure out how teams will qualify. They will definitely want to reward countries that have been doing a lot of 3-on-3 activities. The U.S. has been pushing 3-on-3 the past few years and held a national tournament last month. The winners will head to the World Cup in France later this month. It's also unclear if the NBA will even allow its players to compete.
Turning now to NASCAR action, Ryan Blaney held off Kevin Harvick down the stretch in a thrilling finish and won his first career NASCAR Cup race Sunday at Pocono Raceway. The 23-year-old Blaney, a third-generation driver, won for the first time in 68 career starts and made it to victory lane for the second straight day. He was a reporter for Fox during the Xfinity race and was stationed in victory lane. Blaney got there this time in the number 21 Ford and without a working team radio. Blaney drives for the Wood Brothers, one of the most storied teams in NASCAR. The Wood Brothers have won at least one race in each of the last 6 decades, but none since Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500 back in 2011. The Wood Brothers won for the 99th time. Now they can add Blaney to the list. He's the 18th driver to win a Cup race with the Wood Brothers. It figures the one race we don't have radio communication, and we end up winning it, Blaney said. Maybe we should turn the radio off more often. Darrell Wallace Jr. finished a lap down in 26th in the first start by a black driver in the Cup Series since 2006. He felt ill after the race and needed to go to the medical center. Wallace says he was very embarrassed, but he is fine.
In the Shrine Soccer Classic, all the offense they could have hoped for and then some was the difference Sunday for the North team in the boys' match of the Shrine Soccer Classic. 4 goals in each half led the North to an 8-3 victory on a warm day at Creighton's Morrison Stadium. The North scored 3 times in the first 15 minutes and never looked back. Ralston's Diego Gutierrez worked a give and go with Eric Feiner of Millard West in the 8th minute to put the North up. Gutierrez found Omaha West Side standout Jake Finocchiaro on a cross 3 minutes later to add to the lead before Fremont graduate Nolan Dillon capped the burst 4 minutes after that. Gutierrez and Dillon were the top 2 scorers in the state this season, respectively, combining for 70 goals. This is the best group of guys in the state, Gutierrez said, so it makes it a lot easier to play. Asked if he thought his team could put 8 on the board, Gutierrez said, "I did. We all kind of did because our team was pretty stacked," he said. Gutierrez would add another goal late to take home Most Valuable Player honors. Feiner and Dillon had a goal and an assist apiece for the North. Jonathan Lopez of Millard South and Norfolk Lutheran Catholic's Christian Prim were the scorers for the South. Both teams also got goals from their honorary captains. Aaron Thiemann scored for the North in the first half, with Brady Grass getting one for the South in the second.
Sunday's results for the National League in baseball: Pirates 3, Marlins 1. Ivan Nova pitched 6 shutout innings. Elias Diaz drove in 2 runs, and Pittsburgh beat former Pirate Jeff Locke in his first start in Pittsburgh since he signed with Miami in free agency. 2-1, Seth Lugo became the latest member of the Mets to make a successful return, pitching 7 impressive innings in his season debut. The Cardinals glanced past the Phillies 6-5. Dexter Fowler hit a 3-run homer, and Adam Wainwright tossed 5 solid innings, leading St. Louis to a 3-game sweep at home. And the Cubs edged the Rockies 7-5. Addison Russell had a go-ahead home run for his first big contribution since an absence in the wake of a Major League Baseball investigation into domestic abuse allegations. The Giants got past the Twins 13-8. Buster Posey had 3 hits and 4 RBIs. Hunter Pence added 3 doubles and scored 3 times, and San Francisco avoided a 3-game sweep at home. The Rangers went past the Nationals 5-1. Max Scherzer struck out 10 to move past 2,000 for his career, but was outpitched by Austin Bibbins as Texas Rangers won the Washington to sweep their weekend series. The Dodgers edged the Reds 9-7. Corey Seager capped a 6-run 8th inning with his first career grand slam. The Diamondbacks really went past the Brewers at 11-1. Robbie Ray struck out 12 in 6.2 shutout innings. Paul Goldschmidt hit a grand slam, and Arizona broke away late in Phoenix. And finally, the Royals beat the Padres 8-3. Mike Moustakas hit 2 home runs. Alex Gordon and Eric Hosmer also homered, and Jake Junis pitched 7+ solid innings.
From Ivanhoe, Illinois, a final round of par 72 left Omaha's Scott Kachewski tied for 17th Sunday at the Web.com Tour's Rust-Oleum Championship. He rose from 45th to 40th on the season money list. Ex-Husker golfer Brady Schnell, formerly of Omaha, tied for 42nd, and Mitchell graduate Nate Lashley tied for 53rd. And that brings us to 12 o'clock.
Yep.
Perfectly on the dot.
Yes. Well, this has been a real pleasure. So glad that we both could fill in today reading the Lincoln Journal-Star and the World Herald. This is Deanne Bright. Hope you have a wonderful week.
And thanks for listening, everyone. Goodbye. I guess he's got it. Yeah. Perfectly on the dot.
Yay.
Good job.
All right. Whew.
Okay.
All right.
Wonder what it's doing outside.
I was wondering the same
I'll
thing.
bet you it's just
Watch it
clear
be
and
sunny
hot.
and hot and horrible.
Yeah, hot and humid. That's what I would think.
All right.